Welcome, welcome, welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. It is a joy to be with you today, in person and virtually. I am your minister, Reverend Darcy Roque, and today I will be your worship associate as well, so I'm very excited about that. So who are we as Community Church? We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are in a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Now, many of you saw our announcements that are projected before the service. Also, hopefully, many of you receive our emails that come out on Thursday and Friday of each week that announce anything that's happening in the community, as well as our service for that week, both in person and online. Hello, everyone online. And in that, I want to mention over the summer to please, if you do have announcements, to email comms, C-O-M-M-S, at ccuunola.org. And that is actually on our website as well. And in the announcements at the very bottom, you can always actually click a link that says, do you have an announcement? Let us know. Speaking of announcements, a couple of brief ones. Jolie Bonk has been doing a beautiful job in the ministerial search and getting the congregational survey together. So, as you are able, please, 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 we want you all to have a say in where we move forward, where you move forward. See, I told you I'm working on this. Where you move forward in your next ministry. And so a big piece of that is the survey, because as a Unitarian Universalist faith, the input of this congregation, y'all are the church. So the survey link has been in our worship announcements each week. We're also going to put it in the chat box for those of us not able to be here today. It will also be online, so please do help fill that out. Also, Heidi Netherton wanted to remind folks that she's doing a pool party after church, 12:15 to 3 p.m. You can text her for the address or after church. She is right there in the lovely pink and yellow dress, so please know that that is happening as well. Finally, I am very, very excited about our incredible summer worship series. I cannot tell you how exciting it is, the voices that are going to be at our pulpit. Many of them came from our sermon seminar, which was actually an 8-session course over about 3 months, in which we learned together, we grew together, and out of these pieces came beautiful sermons. So these are lay folks who have stepped up and created incredible sermons. This is one of the most sacred parts about my ministry, actually, was helping people find their authentic voice. And so I'm particularly excited today to welcome to our pulpit Dr. Jim O'Neill. Now, Jim was a part of our sermon seminar, but he has a long history in speaking and being a leader in religious communities, and so we're so delighted that he's here. So Dr. Jim O'Neill, he's a pastoral psychotherapist who has devoted over 40 years to providing a safe, caring environment where individual, couples, and families can find healing and creative, imaginative approaches to life's dilemmas, challenges, and mysteries. You can learn more about it by going to drjimoneil.com or talking with Jim here. And may I say, when I heard his sermon, he preached to me when I got to hear it a couple of weeks ago. And so I requested specifically that he bring this sermon to the pulpit, and he agreed. So I'm so very excited, and I'm so excited that we're all here today. But let us begin worship in earnest. I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to begin lighting our chalice with We Light This Flame, and I'm going to ask our wonderful RE director, Cynthia Ramirez, to come forward to light our chalice.
We light this flame to affirm the light of truth and knowledge, the warmth of love and community, and the fire of hope uncommitted.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share with you a story. It's called You Are Our Wonders. I am your teacher. You are my school child. I am your welcome. You are my running wild. I am your bell. You are my ring. I am your notes. You are my sing. I am your tall. You are my grow. I am your tell, and you are my show. I am your blank paper. You are my work of art. I am your lace dolly, and you are my glitter heart. I am your slow, you are my double quick. I am your glue, and you are my popsicle stick. I am your story, you are my wide eyes. I am your lesson, you are my surprise. I am your silliness, and you are my giggle. I am your straight line, and you are my wiggle. I am your serious, and you are my silly face. I am your duck, duck, goose, and you are my chase. I am your soil, you are my watering spout. I am your seeds, you are my fresh green sprout. I am your blackboard, and you are my clean eraser. I am your chore chart, and you are my hamster chaser. I am your boots, and you are my muddy tracks. I am your zip up, and you are my backpack. I am your calm, and you are my thunder. I am your wisdom, and you are my wonders. Thank you.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free, free from the bonds that blind the mind and narrow thought to lifeless greed, free from our social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Our first reading today is by Rumi, entitled Two Kinds of Intelligence. There are two kinds of intelligence. One acquired, as a child in school memorizes facts and concepts from books and from what the teacher says, collecting information from the traditional sciences as well as from the new sciences. With such intelligence, you rise in the world. You get ranked ahead or behind others in regard to your competence in retaining information. You stroll with this intelligence in and out of fields of knowledge, getting always more marks on your preserving tablets. There is another kind of tablet, one already completed and preserved inside of you. A spring overflowing its spring box, a freshness in the center of the chest. This other intelligence does not turn yellow or stagnate. It's fluid, and it doesn't move from outside to inside through the conduits of plumbing learning. This second knowing is a fountainhead from within you. moving out. So as many of you know, Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. So what that means is that members' and friends' generosity helps us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion, not only to our community, but beyond these four walls. And so it's at this time that we ask for our offering to help continue to sustain this glorious community. Now, we're going to be doing an in-person offering, but also know that you can give online at ccuunola.org/stewardship. You can also text at 504-370-2659, text GIVE. Or you can send a check to CCUU at 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, right here, 70124. So during our musical offertory, we're asked that you will come forward to give. And if you are unable to come forward, please just raise your hand and we are happy to come to you. We thank you so very much for all the gifts that you bring.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you are online, please write your joys and sorrows in the chat box to be read aloud. If you are in person, there are cards of joys and sorrows in our foyer. If you were not able to fill one out earlier, please feel free during our musical interlude. And we thank you.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with all my beat each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in the dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
A joy from Howard. Looking forward to my visit to Seattle. to spend time with grandchildren, Lena, Simon, and Walter. First in-person visit since February 2020. We're all aging. A sorrow from Lizzie Jenkins. This past Saturday was my 50th anniversary of first marriage to Carol, mother of my oldest daughter, died in childbirth, 1976. Missed dearly. Happy anniversary. In joyful thanksgiving for all our generous UU members and dear friends who have stepped up to serve our church in leadership positions, merci beaucoup from Vera. From Carol, my joy is the friendship that I shared with Russell. My sorrow is that I'll miss him. Reverend Darcy, as you have dearly cared for and led our church community as our minister, a big heartfelt thanks, and wherever you go in your new adventures, we are grateful. Jim and Vera. From Jada, Alexandra DeColette, my cousin Brandon, got married to his beautiful wife Yolanda yesterday. I was able to go to Charlotte to celebrate with them. From Jane Paget, my grandmother is in the hospital on oxygen with fluid on her lungs in heart failure. Now there are 2 more candles, one for all the joys that are welling up inside of us that have not found words, and the other for the sorrows that are perhaps too difficult to share at this moment. Our second reading for today, if I can turn the page, is from the poet William Stafford, and it's entitled, "A Ritual to Read to Each Other." If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others made may prevail in the world. And following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade holding each other's tail, but if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep. I know we've all faced moments of crisis and have been caught on the horns of a dilemma and wondered and worried over what is the right thing to do. Which path do I take that will lead me out of this crisis, that will solve this dilemma? I can point to numerous times in my life when I felt caught on the horns of a dilemma, knowing that whatever decision I made would have serious consequences for my life. Often those kinds of decisions are irreversible. There's really no turning back. Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken, told of two roads diverging in a yellow wood, and he taking the road less traveled, and that made all the difference. But that poem does not capture the intensity or angst of many of the crises or dilemmas in life, nor does it offer any real clarity about which path to take. Parker Palmer, on the other hand, in his book, Let Your Life Speak, gives us both challenge and assistance in how we might face life's crises and dilemmas. He asked the question, is the life I am living the same as the life that wants to live in me? He suggests that before you tell your life what you intend to do, listen for what it intends to do with you. Just that simple, right? Wrong. It's not that simple. If you're stuck at the crossroads of life, what part of yourself do you listen to? Do you listen to the selfish child that wants what he wants right now? Or the child within who wants to please others and take the path that others want you to take? I'm sure some of you tried the latter, only to find yourself years later living your parents' life, but not your own, and then facing the painful situation of making midlife changes of direction. Or do you listen to the rebellious or angry part who just wants to say no? That can also have very serious unwanted consequences. Palmer shared his own personal journey about waking up in the middle of the night with dread and foreboding. As he put it, his true life was a hidden river under the ice of accumulating wealth, holding power, winning and securing a career. What he discovered is there's a wide gulf between what the ego wants with its protective mask and self-serving fictions and the true self. Living someone else's life will invariably fail and may even do great damage. Listening to one's true self is about discovering our true vocation, which does not come from willfulness, no matter its noble intentions. Vocation does not call from an external voice. It calls from within, from the deepest recesses of our souls. Now, our culture suggests if you find your true soulmate, all will be well. But that puts the responsibility on someone else who can't possibly answer your needs 24/7. Yes, friends, family, a spouse can help, but the work of finding our true vocation is up to each of us. Getting access to our soul is not easy. Palmer suggests the soul is like a wild animal, tough, resilient, savvy, self-sufficient, but very shy. You can't just demand its appearance. You have to be willing to sit in silence, waiting patiently to get clues of its deepest desires. Or if you ignore your soul, sometimes one's carefully constructed life crashes. Like when I found myself executive director of a pastoral counseling center. My ego liked the position and power, but my soul was increasingly discontent, losing touch with the soul work that was deeply satisfying. At that time, I had a dream of piloting an airplane that crashed with a trail of wreckage behind me. Next to me in the cockpit was my female co-pilot who was asleep. In thinking about the dream, I was tempted to blame the co-pilot for not warning me of danger. But with deeper reflection, I discovered it was not her fault. What led to the crash of my life was that I had not been paying attention to my anima, my soul, and had lost my bearings and true compass. I learned I was better suited for the private practice of psychotherapy that I've been in ever since. Sometimes our vocational calling comes in unexpected ways. Soon after being ordained 50 years ago to the Catholic priesthood, after 8 years of seminary training and theological studies, I'd been assigned to a church in Metairie and was just putting things in place in my office when the doorbell to the rectory rang. I opened the door to a deeply distressed woman who said, "I need to talk with a priest." For a moment there, it didn't fully register that I, standing there in my new Roman collar, needed to step up. I thought about reaching for the experienced pastor, but he was on his day off. And it was clear she needed to talk with someone now. I invited her into my office and listened as she, amidst tears and sobbing, told the sad story of a marital affair and a subsequent suicide. She was tormented by guilt and shame. Now, one part of me knew that she needed confession and the sacrament of reconciliation. But another part of me knew that there was no way she was ready for the ritual. In the state she was in, she could not believe she could be forgiven by God, since she could not forgive herself. So I listened with compassion and understanding, without judgment. It seemed to help her to be heard and understood. I offered for her to come back as she needed. What I realized when she left my office was that all of my theological education and preparation to administer the sacraments had not prepared me to effectively minister as a pastoral counselor. And so I also realized that I wanted very much to be equipped psychologically as well as theologically to help people heal and grow. From that day on, I began my journey of study and growth to equip myself as a pastoral counselor. Why start my education over when I just finished 8 years? Being able to meet a person at their deepest level of need felt both challenging and deeply satisfying. As time went on through training, supervision, and an eventual doctorate, I learned that my temperament, or Jungian type, as an intuitive feeling person, was uniquely suited to the ministry of pastoral counseling. It's not that I didn't find the other areas of parish ministry satisfying. It was more the discovery of vocation, as the author and minister Frederick Buechner stated it. Calling is the place God calls you to where your deep gladness and the world's deep need meet. That made sense to me. But figuring out of the many voices in our heads, what is divine guidance as distinguished from the voice of society, ego, or self-interest is not easy. Buechner suggests 2 criteria. Is the work you most need to do, and is it the work that the world most needs to be done? My answer some 40 years ago to both questions was yes, and I've been a pastoral counselor ever since. I'd like to say that vocation is as simple as that. Once decided, you're done, and it's smooth sailing from then on. But of course, it's not that simple. Calling may be once and for all for some. I hear stories of those lucky ones who knew from childhood on what they wanted to do and were able to follow their dreams. Even with those stories, if you dig deep enough, you find there were difficult obstacles and failures along the way, sometimes hardship and poverty before the breakthrough. Then, too, within every vocation or calling, there are sometimes simple and sometimes complex needs for course adjustments. I gave you one example of that when I had moved from the one-to-one therapy into more administration. Yes, I could do the work, but it just wasn't as satisfying. It caused me a lot of stress and took away the deep gladness that Buechner speaks of. All that led to a crisis that got me out of administration, back into the more satisfying work of pastoral counseling and psychotherapy. I'm also reminded of a book, There Are No Accidents, Synchronicity in the Stories of Our Lives by Robert Hopke. One of the many stories he tells is of a talented young woman who imagined herself as an opera singer. As hard as she tried to get roles in opera, she had failed. One day she heard of another scheduled audition for an opera, and she showed up. She was well received, but to her confusion, she was handed a piece of music from the American Songbook. Rather than question the choice of music, she sang the piece. She was then informed that she got the lead part in the musical. Shocked, she protested that she came here to try out for the opera. That audition was yesterday, she was told, and the part was filled already. She needed the job, so she reluctantly accepted the part in the musical, and thus began her accidental career in musical theater that her voice was perfectly suited for and that she came to enjoy fully. She learned to, as Palmer put it, let her life speak, or more accurately, instead of telling her voice what she should be singing, she let her soul sing what it most wanted to sing. She found her career by mistake. Perhaps some of you saw in the Sunday paper recently the stories about the mistakes and accidents that became new discoveries or invention. Our beloved jazz musician, Louis Armstrong, once dropped his sheet music during a recording session. He couldn't see the words, so he just invented some nonsense phrases that fit the melody. And that was the start of a new jazz vocal style called scat singing. Dr. Percy Spencer in the 1940s was testing a new radar system, which he did when he discovered the magnetron melted the candy bar in his pocket, leading to the invention of the microwave oven. Many historians believe products such as cheese, popcorn, bread, glass, paper, and the wheel were probably discovered accidentally. Recently, here at Community Church, when the pre-recorded service, Standing on the Side of Love, failed, Reverend Darcy stepped into the void without a prepared sermon, yet she found one within herself that she shared with us. Some years ago, when I was taking up pottery as a hobby, I was throwing a vase on the pottery wheel. I was pulling up the sides while the wheel was spinning. Perhaps the wheel was spinning too fast or the sides were too thin. Whatever the cause, the vase began to twist in my hands. It was that moment of what I call potter's panic, when I had to decide, is this vase a disastrous mistake that I need to pound down to the clump of clay it came from? Or is there some way I can save this vase? I decided that the twisted shape was not displeasing to my eye. In fact, I liked it. So I put the finishing touches on the lip of the vase and then selected two glazes, one a deep brown and the other a bronze, that I hoped would accent the curves and contours of the vase. And I let the kiln do the rest. It turned out to be a happy mistake and one of my favorite pieces of pottery that I've made. Some might call the theme of this sermon to be radical acceptance of whatever happens to us in life, even the so-called accidents and mistakes. And yes, I embrace that, as difficult as it is sometimes. Or it might be about accepting and learning from our so-called mistakes. Yes, I embrace that too. Some would call it about the kind of mindfulness in living that allows us to see and accept that there is a deep underground current running through our lives that will give us guidance if and only if we pay close attention. Ultimately, it's about recognizing that each of us is called from deep within to discover our unique gifts and to place them in service to the world's deepest needs. One of the great blessings for me in being a member of Community Church is the commitment that I feel that each of us is respected and valued for the unique gifts we bring to our community and the world. I need to tell you that I prepared this sermon as part of the shared pulpit class led by Reverend Darcy this spring. So I did not know then of her decision to follow her deep inner calling to focus on reproductive rights and justice issues in a doctoral program. As much as I grieve about her leaving and will miss her inspiring leadership, she's doing exactly what I was talking about today. Listening within for what her life was calling her to do in this moment. Certainly our state and our world needs her voice on this important issue. So I will put aside my wish that she would stay with us longer. Thank her for her excellent service and invite all of us to send her on her new mission with our blessings. Since this is Reverend Darcy's last Sunday with us for now, I invite anyone who has a brief parting message for her to come forward now.
Good morning, everyone. I have a gift on behalf of the congregation to Reverend Darcy. Just want to let you know that you are so loved, every bit of you, even the bit that needs to go and do something else. We love you for that, and because of that, we've learned from you, and all of those bits that you've left here with us will go on and grow. And as much as you say that you look forward to watching us grow, we look forward to that as well. We love you.
If you'd remain standing for our benediction today, I'm going to invite Reverend Darcy to step forward. And for you, the congregation, to stand as you're able and extend your hands in blessing over her. Reverend Darcy, we extend our hands over you in a blessing of deep gratitude for your loving and caring service to us these 4 years. And we send you forth with a blessing for your ministry focused on reproductive rights and justice. We will hold you lovingly in our hearts. Amen. Amen. For our closing song, we have adapted a familiar song to sing at this point. Thank you.